passport bros, red pill, game. Do you have game? Do you think because someone goes out of the country, someone who's called a passport bro, to find women doesn't have game? I know some people claim that, well, if they had game, they wouldn't have to leave the States. There's women here. Well, there may be some truth to that. But if I want to catch trout, I can't go to a local lake full of catfish and carp and bass and perch to catch trout. And what we have in the U.S. is a lake full of bass, carp, perch, and catfish. You're not going to find trout here. Well, you may find one or two. But I live in an area in St. Louis where probably, well, what do they say? The average American woman, 20 years old, weighs 170.4 pounds. That's the latest stats. And that's great. If you like big women, then you're in heaven here. But if you like thin, muscular, or in-shape women who have taken care of themselves past the age of 20, it's pretty slim pickings here in the U.S. And if you want a woman here that wants to take care of her man, that respects a man, that doesn't think she is the same as a man, that doesn't think she can dominate a man in all ways, you're not going to find a lot of those type of women here in the U.S. Now, back in the 70s and 80s, it was a common thing to find a woman like that. Some people would say, well, you're wanting somebody you can control, someone who will submit to you. Well, I don't know about that, but I would like to have someone who cooperates with me, who doesn't try to overpower me, who doesn't think that she can beat me up just because the law has given her certain rights that allow her to hit men, to push men around, and if he tries to protect himself, he is in trouble because they consider him abusive. So that's a whole nother video. I won't even go there. But it wasn't like that when I was younger, and it isn't like that in other parts of the world. There are other parts of the world where women still take care of themselves very well after 20 years old. They're not all overweight or obese, and they want to be more conservative. They're not as promiscuous as American women. Now, do you have to have a game in these places? Well, everybody has a game. Some people just have poor game. Obviously, you have to be a man. And the best game you can have is to be a man. A man who can protect himself, provide for himself, provide for a woman if he gets one, who's well-grounded spiritually, mentally, and physically, who has taken care of himself, who is not needy, someone who is with a woman, who wants to be with a beautiful woman because it's a desire, not a need. Really, the best game you can have is to be a strong, independent man who desires to be with women, but is not like a woman, not like a woman, who's more into his masculine than his feminine. What we have here in the States is a lot of women, not all, are very much into their masculine because of the push of feminism during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and on. Not so much because of, it's more the radical side, I guess, that's gotten it this way. But you have girls growing up thinking that they're the same as men. Well, they're not. Now, does that mean they're less than men? Of course not. We all have, men and women have different characteristics and traits that are biologically programmed within us, if you like, that make us different. We each are good at different things. Some of us are better at some things. For example, how many men daycares do you see? How many daycares are operated by men only? You don't see that, do you? You don't see very many men working in daycare. Why is that? Because women are much better at nurturing and caring for children. Now, does that make men less than women? No. And the reverse of that, do you see many women being painting contractors, carrying heavy ladders, iron workers, climbing buildings, doing concrete work, working in the sewers? No, because men are more biologically designed for that by our Creator, by God, if you like. So it doesn't make one greater than the other or one lesser than the other. But it seems we've got that idea here in the U.S., or at least it's been pushed on men and women. I had a guy one time, we were discussing this on some social media platform, and he said, men and women are equal. They can do the same things. A woman can do the same thing as a man if you give her enough time. Now, I didn't argue any more past that point, but that statement in itself contradicts itself. If given enough time, well, if she were the same as a man, she wouldn't need extra time. For example, in the services, the Army, the Marines, Navy, whatever, they've lowered the bar for women because they cannot do the same things men can do physically. And as I said earlier, does that make them less than? No. What it does make them is different than. So, back to my original point here, if you want to find women who are more like women and realize they are women and that men are men, you're not going to find an overabundance of that here in the U.S. You need to go to a different country, such as South America, Romania, Colombia, Latin America, different places there. I think it's Eastern Europe. I have a friend in Romania now, and he's telling me about there's just women everywhere. I mean, women in their 30s that are really in good shape, still taking care of themselves. And he happens to be dating one today that she has a kid. And that is like bottom of the barrel there. Now, he doesn't mean that derogatorily. What he means is that woman can't hardly find anybody to go out with her because there's so many other options for men that they don't want to take on a woman with a child. And he sent me a photo of her, very attractive woman, probably in her early 30s. That woman over here would have her DMs filled up and guys just waiting to take her out because we don't have the options here. And back to the trout and catfish lake. We live in a place where you can't find trout, but in other countries, they're full of trout, or beautiful women. As we're here, it's just the Americans don't, how do I say, they've just allowed them to let themselves go physically. And along with that, there's a mentality, a spiritual mentality, if you like, emotional, to where they just kind of let themselves go. It's natural here or accepted that if a woman has a kid, that she gets overweight, that's part of the deal. It's not part of the deal, but it is part of the deal here where they let themselves go. And men do it too. Go take a look at yourself in the mirror. Would you want to date you? Have you taken care of yourself, not only physically, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, psychologically? Would you want to be with you? I know some of you guys talk about wanting this beautiful, caring, loving, kind, physically shaped woman. But what are you? What's looking back at you in the mirror? Hey, and I'm the first one to admit I got a lot of work to do too. When I talk about the kind of woman that I like to date, I got to ask myself, do I embody those characteristics? Now, of course, we're not going to embody everything a woman has. You know, the nurturing capabilities, that's not inherent within me. And I can see that as I've raised my kids for the last 12 years by myself without a woman involved in their lives. There's things that a woman can do that I just have a hard time with. It's like I want to call them to account, especially the boys. Where a woman might pick them up and give them a hug and say, "It's okay, honey." Not that I don't hug them, because I do, but it's just different. Women are better at that than men are. So I can't be what a woman is, and a woman can't be what I am. But it seems they're taught here in the U.S. that they can be everything a man can be. And to me, that's just ludicrous. Now, there are exceptions, but they're rare. Just like with men, there are exceptional men that can be nurturing like a woman, but it's not the norm or the average or the masses, the majority, and that's what I'm talking about here. So, sure, if you go somewhere else to go out with women, you need to have some kind of game. But more than anything, you need to be yourself. But you need to be that self that a woman feels safe with. A woman does not feel safe with a man that if she would happen to leave him, they were in a relationship, that he would fall apart. Why would a woman like that want to have children with a man like that? If she knows that during childbirth she should pass away and her children would live on, that man is going to fall apart and not be able to take care of those children. Did you guys ever think of that when you're telling your woman that you don't know if you could live without her? That she's the best thing that ever happened to you, that's okay. But if she left you, you might delete yourself. No woman wants to hear that. That gives women the cringe. What you should say, and they may ask you this, I've had women ask me this, women I was married to and women I dated. What would you do if something happened to me? Well, I would be sad, but I would go on. Now, they're going to act like they're pissed off when you say that, but that's the answer they want to hear. What they don't want to hear is, God, I don't know, don't even talk about that. I don't know what I would do without you. I just don't know how I would make it. I mean, you're my everything. They don't want to hear that. So don't tell them that, even if you feel that way. Because you're a man, you're going to make it. You're going to tough it out. You're going to put her in the ground, and you're going to go on. Because that's what she wants you to be able to do. She wants you to go on, raise those kids if you have a family, and be the man that you came here to be. A man who can get through anything, who gets up off his butt when he gets knocked down and tries again and again and again. Not some flimsy flim-flam man that's going to fall apart every time a little storm comes along, or a big storm as far as that goes. You are the leader, so be that. And if you want to find a woman with traditional values, it can be done in the U.S., but it's more difficult. There are many, many women in the world, millions of women in the world, and there's one out there for you. But you got to get off your butt, and you got to be a man worthy of that woman. And that's the first question you need to ask yourself. Are you worthy of your desires? Whether it be a woman, money, fame, lands, whatever. Are you worthy of those desires? And if not, make yourself worthy. Only you can do that. Think about that. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thanks for watching to the end. Take care.